In this video we are going to dive into Deathwatch list building now that both recent points and rules changes have shaken things up a little. First we will start with a quick look at what has changed for Deathwatch due to both the new chapter approved points changes as well as the updated FAQs published on Warhammer Community. I will then go through my personal takeaways and how I plan on implementing them into my current Deathwatch list. Lastly, there will be a quick wrap up of what has been covered. Welcome to SwissHammer, your channel for modeling in Warhammer 40k. My name is Tammer and I will be guiding you through this video. Last week has been an intense one with both the release of the 2021 edition of Chapter Approved, consisting of the Grand Tournament Mission Pack and the Munitorum Field Manual MK2. The Mission Pack features mostly changes to secondary objectives, while the Munitorum Field Manual contains the latest points values for all the units. These changes are considered to be mandatory and will replace the values of previously released codexes and supplements. I have covered these points changes and the implications for Deathwatch in a separate video. The link is in the description. To quickly sum up the key takeaways, let's start with the bad news. The Chief Apothecary upgrade got increased by 20 points, still auto-include, but we are now paying for what it does. Furthermore, Plasma Inceptors have gone up to 60 points each, while Vanguard Veterans are paying an extra point for a Jump Pack and the Storm Shield. On the other hand, the Bolter Inceptors went down to a very affordable 40 points. Yet even better, Eliminators are down to 25 points for the Sniper variant, and the Last Fossil is only a 5 points upgrade now. While there have been no changes to the Deathwatch datasheets themselves, these units are parts of our kill teams and in some cases even staples of popular competitive lists. So I think for most of us this means we have to do some tweaking to our lists. But this is not all yet. Last week also saw the release of a variety of FAQs on Warhammer Community. Again, there was no direct update to the Deathwatch, but there are multiple changes to core rules and Space Marines that affect us. Starting with the first, which I consider a bit niche, but adding it for completion's sake anyway. Previously, some people used the Tomb of Malkador to gain access to a power from a different librarious discipline. In the Deathwatch, for instance, they would pick the popular Xenopurge discipline, but then take the Tomb of Malkador and take Null Zone from the default Space Marine librarious discipline. The FAQ now clearly states that you cannot cherry pick from other disciplines like that. The additional power has to be taken from Xenopurge discipline in this particular case. That nerf aside, let's move on to the good stuff. Since 9th edition and the new supplement, one hot topic has been combat squads and their deployment. For instance, if you were to do a Proteus kill team with 5 Deathwatch veterans and 5 Terminators, then combat squad them, could you deploy the Terminators via teleport strike and the Deathwatch veterans inside a transport? While the Deathwatch supplement has a passage about doing the teleport strike part, even though some claimed this was overruled by the previous core rules, on the transport part, I think there has never been an official confirmation, up until now. The good news is that the FAQ now clarifies this in our favor. In short, you can do combat squads and then still decide about how you go about deploying them. In this previous example, you are allowed to deploy the Terminators via teleport strike and the Deathwatch veterans inside a transport. This opens up more possibilities for our kill teams and ends this particular debate for good. Next one is the Teleport Homer, and I have to say this one surprised me on multiple levels. But first things first, the FAQ part. GW is quite generous with this one and states that when you have a Teleport Homer for a unit and then use combat squads, you don't have to declare which one gets the Teleport Homer. This means you can wait till you actually want to activate and then decide. For the Deathwatch, it gets even better though. A Proteus kill team can take a Deathwatch teleport Homer by including at least one Terminator. Up until now, it was assumed that when you combat squad, the Homer goes with the Terminator. The old Errata and Kill Team Cassius even have a Deathwatch teleport Homer description that states that the squad needs a Terminator model to be able to activate it. Turns out that in the actual 9th edition supplement, the description of the Deathwatch teleport Homer for the Deathwatch Terminator squad does not state that it needs the Terminator at all. Battlescribe is wrong on this, by the way. Don't be like me and fall for it. Double check the actual supplement. Anyway, with this new clarification offered by the FAQ, it means that if you combat squad the Proteus kill team, you can activate the teleport Homer in the combat squad of your choosing, even if they don't have a Terminator. Now let's take a moment and think of the implications of that. Say you are doing a Proteus kill team with 5 Deathwatch veterans and 5 Terminators, including the teleport Homer. You keep the Terminators off the board to be deployed via their teleport strike ability. Nothing fancy there. You now put the Deathwatch veterans on the board and activate the teleport Homer on them turn 1. Congratulations, you now have both combat squads with a teleport strike ability from turn 2 on. You basically spend 5 points instead of 1 CP for the teleportarium, not to mention that the usage of the latter is limited. Anyway, with this amazing news out of the way, let's move to the 4th and final one for this video, the fight first and fight last clarifications. Reading that one gives me a headache still, but I have to say that they did a really good job by adding the designer's commentary to the Warhammer 40k core book errata. They added it a day or so after the initial release of the errata, so you might have missed it. The link is in the description. In a nutshell, there is basically fight first, fight last and fight normally. No stacking of multiple effects and the like. Charging counts as fight first. If fight first meets fight last, it gets put to fight normally. This makes the Judiciar and his fight last ability far more interesting than before. For Deathwatch in particular, we have the Indomitor kill team who can be excellent for holding the mid-board, but one potential issue is dealing with getting charged, as none other than the aggressors are able to handle close combat well. Through these updated rules, combined with the Judiciar as well as the Premorphic Resonance Librarian power, we have now gained several ways to deal with this. With both these points changes and the FAQs in mind, here are my personal takeaways as following for getting as much as possible out of these changes. Overall, less Plasma Inceptors, more Bolter Inceptors instead. As covered in the previous video, even if we do not include them in a kill team, we can still use stratagems like Brotherhood of Veterans or giving access to the artificial Bolt Cache relic. The Eliminators are incredibly affordable now, and the Spectre's kill team has unique ways to maximize that. We can take up to 5, and we can also mix loadouts. The changes to the Teleport Homer basically ask for making a Proteus kill team with at least 1 Terminator and combat squads, and if only to get the 5 Deathwatch veterans into position more easily. Another one is including a Judiciar to protect the kill team holding the midboard. In the past, I used to run a company champion for his ability to heroically intervene and fight first in certain situations. Surely we can optimize on that. Without further delay, let's have a look at the changes I have done to my list so far. Starting with the kill teams, first thing I did was get rid of the Fortis kill team with the Outriders. Secretly, I was hoping that their price would drop down again after all the codex creep coming for other factions, but GW decided to give the discount to the Bolter Inceptors instead. Fine, it's not that I think that the kill team is now unplayable, on the contrary, I still think that the 4 infantry Outriders are a solid strategy, but I simply wanted to focus on what had changed for the better, and Outriders had not. Instead, I replace it with the Proteus kill team. On first glance, this might seem a little odd, but hear me out on this one. For the longest time, running the infantry veteran bikes in combination with the Vanguard veterans has been a cheaper, faster, yet more fragile variant when compared to the Outriders. I've covered this in more detail in a previous video, link is in the description. But this time I wanted to do things differently. When I have seen people discuss combining 3 veteran bikers with 2 Terminators, making it slower but more tanky, I did the following instead. The combat squad has 3 veteran bikers, a single Terminator to tank, and one of the mandatory 5 Deathwatch veterans. Reasons are as following. 1 infantry has to stay alive anyway in order to keep the bikes as infantry, meaning you won't remove both Terminators first. The less tanky Deathwatch veteran can do the infantry job just fine. Meanwhile, this kind of mix allows us to actually take a black shield in this kill team, which will then be part of the other combat squad. This comes closest to fixing the issue of not being able to replace one of the initial 5 veterans, as you could do back in 8th edition. Anyway, reasons the black shield is amazing is because he can negate the hit penalty on the Thunder Hammer, and he also allows the squad to heroically intervene through a 1 CP stratagem. More on that later though. Last but not least, as we established earlier in the video, you can pick on which combat squad you want to use the teleport Homer on. You can give either of these combat squads a very nice deployment boost. Moving on to the second kill team, the Spectre's kill team. Once more, this might look a little special. As I may have mentioned on previous occasions, I've always preferred using combat squads in order to maximize the deep strike denial bubble through having at least 1 infiltrator in each. For this, I often refer to using 6 infiltrators and 4 eliminators in the past. Well, turns out an eliminator with a sniper rifle is now only 1 point more expensive than an infiltrator. Surely we can maximize that. Because the kill teams allow us to mix loadouts, I'm now going for 3 Las Fusil eliminators with the Helix Adept and the spare infiltrator. The other combat squad has 3 infiltrators and 2 sniper rifle eliminators. What are you going to do with 2 sniper rifles, you may ask? Simple, it costs me 2 points more over taking infiltrators. 2 is fine to take out a weak target, or if they just chip away a wound or 2 on a stronger model, they have already done their job. Also, I find that snipers make people nervous. I know they make me nervous. Anyway, I'm going to go with this rather odd combo and see how it goes. At worst, I will revert back to the old Helix Adept and 4 eliminators with a single weapon type. I'm also giving them the Aquila Specialism. Having dropped in points comes with its own reward, I suppose. Then moving on to the third and final kill team, the Indomitor one. Not much has changed here. Plasma Inceptors have gone up in points. I want to keep some. The by now commonly seen 2 Flamestorm Aggressors, 3 Plasma Inceptors, and 5 Heavy Intercessors combo seems just about right. But now we are bringing the Judiciary instead of the company champion along with them. In order to get back to heroic intervention on steroids, we need to make use of the Black Templar's Oathkeeper available through the Paragon of their Chapter Warlord trait. Bye bye Ultramarine CP regeneration, you will be missed. Speaking of which, I ditched the Blade Guard veterans. Nothing personal, but I think they need too much CP for this particular list. Instead, we can use the previously covered combat squad of the Proteus kill team with the Black Shield to push back. It can even heroically intervene. Between that, the Judiciary and the Flamestorm Aggressors, we should be good to respond to charge attempts. As far as the rest of the elites go, they remain as they were. Chief Apothecary, Redemptor Dreadnought and Company veterans don't leave home without those. This brings us to the last major change in the list, a squad of 5 Bolter Inceptors. As previously mentioned, this list runs low on CP and doesn't have the regen from the Ultramarines anymore, so going for Brotherhood of Veterans really isn't an option on these guys either. Instead, I decided to up their firepower by giving the special issue ammunition to the Sergeant. Yes, it's an initial 1 CP investment, but that's still preferable over having to use Brotherhood of Veterans. Should it turn out to not pull its weight, it can always be removed easily without having to shuffle the list around. Anyway, this basically leaves us with the HQs, which are very similar to the ones I had before. Phobos Librarian unchanged, Chaplain on Bike unchanged, though this one will focus more on boosting the ranged damage output rather than being a beatstick himself. You can put the Beacon and Chalice on either of these, it depends on how you want to deploy, but you absolutely want to have the relic along. For the Captain, I really wanted to keep the Slash Captain, but I had no points to make it work, so I went for a pretty basic and cheaper Biker Captain. He has a bigger base, so it's better for auras and you don't risk losing him and the Dominus Aegis as easily as the Slash Captain if you're not careful how you go about using him. All in all, this is of course still at an early experimental stage, but I think it does capitalize on the major new changes well enough. To wrap things up, over the course of the video, we have looked at both the impact of the chapter approved points changes as well as the recently released FAQs and their impact on the Deathwatch. The highlights are certainly the discounted Bolter Inceptors and the Eliminators, as well as rules changes to assigning the Teleport Homer in combat squads and sorting out fight first versus fight last. On the other hand, we also have to deal with points increases to the Chief Apothecary, the Plasma Inceptors and the War Gear of the Vanguard Veterans. Based on my own list, I have highlighted a few ways to make good use of these changes. While Plasma Inceptors can still be put to good use in a mixed units kind of Indomitor kill team, I think that running the Bolter Inceptors as a separate squad looks very attractive now. They can be further bolstered by the Brotherhood of Veterans stratagem and or the Artificial Bolt Cache relic on the Sergeant. With both loadouts now being a viable option, I think that magnetizing goes a long way on these, and it is actually quite simple to do. For more information, the link to my guide to magnetizing Inceptors is in the description. Furthermore, I think that including a Judiciary for protecting a kill team holding the midboard makes a lot of sense now. If CP allows, giving him the Black Templar's Oathkeeper Warlord trait through Paragon of their chapter increases his heroic intervention range up to 6 inches. With both Eliminators and their last Fusil dropping in points, including a Spectre's kill team is now better than ever. One way to play it is the classic 4 Eliminators together with the Helix Adept. Another variant I'm looking into is taking 3 Eliminators with Las Fusil and splitting them with the Helix Adept and the spare Infiltrator. The other combat squad then gets 3 Infiltrators and 2 Eliminators with sniper rifles. The latter are now only 1 point more expensive per model. Regardless of which variant you go for, I recommend making use of combat squads and getting 2 deep strike denial bubbles at the cost of only 5 Infiltrators. Last but not least, I'm now including a Proteus kill team, making use of a few unique mixed units benefits of the Deathwatch. Infantry bikes, a T5 Terminator tank, a Black Shield negating the hit penalty to Thunderhammers and giving the squad access to heroic intervention, and then of course the new way to cheese the Deathwatch Teleport Homer with combat squads. All in all, there is some experimental stuff here for sure, but for all the kill teams and models included in this list, there are also more established variants to run them. If you are looking to bolster your army, these remain safe picks. For more information on viable kill team loadouts, links to my guides are in the description. In the near future, I will also review my beginners list for Deathwatch and provide an update that works with the new changes. So that's it for the most recent changes to the Deathwatch and their impact on list building. How do these changes affect your own lists, and what kind of new combos are you going to try yourself? Have I overlooked anything important? Let me know in the comments. Finally, I would also like to mention that there is a SwissHammer Facebook page where I will be posting links to my videos as well as articles I find of interest. I do read a lot about the hobby, but not all of it will always end up as its own video. I look forward to seeing you there as well. I do also have a Patreon page. If you like my content, any additional support is greatly appreciated as it helps me invest into future videos. As always, thank you very much for watching, guys. Your continued support is greatly appreciated. I hope you have been enjoying this video. Give me a thumbs up if you did, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done so already. Thanks again and see you next time.